Just general thoughts on that, Warren. As just terrible as they looked at points this season, to now be there again, and for Tom to do this for 14 seasons straight. Takeaways.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable what he's able to do and how he's able to play at this level, at this age in his life. He hasn't had the greatest of seasons, kind of been up and down, and he's had a lot of offensive line problems as far as protection. They haven't been able to run the ball consistently, and they've really put the game in his hands on the offensive side of the ball. He's throwing the ball probably as much as he's thrown it ever, 40, 50 times a game sometime, and relying on him to be the one to bring them from behind in ball games. So if they're within a score or whatever at the end of a ball game and Tom has the ball in his hands, they're pulling these games out. And that's what he did yesterday. They were behind 14 points, and he's able to come back and will them to a win again. So he's a guy that you don't want to see in the playoffs because of his experience, because of his competitiveness. And he just kind of raises the level of the other guys around him, even if they're not playing that well. When they see Tom out there, trying his hardest and making things happen, it makes everybody else play better. So Tampa is a team you don't want to see in the playoffs because of all the experience that they have. They do have a lot of talent on that team, and then they've got the X factor in Tom Brady.
Yeah, you talked about the offensive line. The offensive line was better yesterday. Mike Evans, who has had an up and down year at best, he was big day yesterday for him. If I told you a couple of weeks from now that the Bucs were in the Super Bowl, despite how good some of these other teams are in the NFC, the 49ers and the Cowboys and the Eagles, could you actually see them making a deep run, not just winning a game, Warren, but could you see the Bucs making a deep run with Tom Brady, obviously, at quarterback?
It's going to be hard if they're going to be one dimensional. I think they have to be able to find a running game somehow, some way, and not put it all on his shoulders. Because now you're talking about playing some of the best pass rushers in the league. Philadelphia has a chance to set a record for pass rush sacks. You got the 49ers, their pass rush. The Dallas Cowboys can really get after the quarterback. So now you're playing against teams that can really get after the quarterback each and every week in the playoffs. And if you're one dimensional, a guy like Tom who doesn't move very well, he could be a sitting duck and really take a lot of punishment. So if they've got to create some type of running game in order to help Tom.
Talk to me, Warren, about 14 straight seasons making the playoffs. As a guy, obviously, who played a incredible career in the NFL, just how hard that is, and in some ways, is that even more impressive than the Super Bowls that he's won? Just the consistency across two organizations to make the playoffs when it's so hard to make the playoffs, even in a single year.
Yeah, you have a lot of guys who might have played 10 years in their career and never made the playoffs. So this is a guy who's done it 14 straight years. And I know when I was playing, we did it 7 straight years. And in Houston, I thought that was impressive. But 14 straight years, 2 different organizations, that's what you call consistency. And that's what you want at your quarterback position. You want him to be the most consistent player on your team, and everybody else will follow behind it. So you can't, there's not enough adjectives to talk about Tom Brady and all the things that he's been able to accomplish.
Now, from one fellow future Hall of Famer to another, obviously Aaron Rodgers. They lost 5 games in a row at a point this season. You had a lot of fans, experts, people calling on Jordan Love. Bench Aaron Rodgers. Now here we are. They've won 4 games in a row. They hold their own destiny. They beat the Lions, and they are in the playoffs. How about Aaron Rodgers and how he's been able to, with his teammates, been able to turn this thing around this year, Warren?
Well, again, another one of the great quarterbacks in this league, and it just proves that if you have a great one, you always have a chance in this league. And Tom being one of those, and Aaron being one of those, and they've been kind of a disappointment this year as far as what they were supposed to be starting the season. Their defense didn't play the way we thought they would early in the season. We're giving up a lot of points. Their running game wasn't doing what they thought it was supposed to do early, and their young wide receivers, it took them a while to really get up to speed. But now it seems like everything is coming together at the right time. Their defense is playing well. They're creating turnovers. They're running the football well with Aaron Jones, and they're also, those young receivers are starting to make plays. So Aaron doesn't have to put it all on his back right now. I think he threw the ball this weekend, 24 times, completed 15 balls, but they scored 41 points. So this is a team, again, because of Aaron and because of their experience, you don't want to play them in the playoffs.
What do you think this means for him next year, Warren? I know the whole team hopes they play a lot more football this season, but what does that mean for next year? I think a lot of people, the way it looked, said, okay, that's it. This is probably going to be it for Aaron in Green Bay. Now that is that has it all changed now
I think
that
it has.
here we are again, and they essentially are playing in a playoff game this weekend, and so are the Lions.
Yeah, I think it really has changed. Like you talked about in midseason, everybody wanted to go with Aaron with Love and say, okay, we're just start looking at the future. But because of the way things have turned around, and you've got a pretty young team now with the Green Bay Packers, as
Yeah.
far as their running backs, as far as their offensive line, their defense. So now you've got Aaron Rodgers playing with this team that's emerging, especially at the wide receiver spot. They've got a lot of talent there, a lot of speed. This is probably a team he wants to come back and play for next year. So if he wants to play football, I think it will be in Green Bay.
Before we end this segment and move on, Lions Packers, it's a big game. Like we said, the Lions, they need some help. So it's not just win and get in for the Lions. They need some help, but they have been playing a heck of a lot better. Who wins that game?
Wow, I think it's going to be tough to go into Green Bay and win in a game where Green Bay knows they have to win, and that crowd is going to be going in a frenzy. I think Aaron loves playing in that environment. I don't know what the weather is going to be like, but Detroit's a dome team, and dome teams don't play very well out in the cold most of the time. But I think it's going to be a really good game because Detroit, because of their head coach, they're going to come in and they're going to fight.
Yeah.
This is a divisional game, so both teams know each other really well. Detroit beat Green Bay earlier in the season, so it's going to be a tough game, but I think Green Bay pulls it out some way, somehow.